Joining us this week on a special edition of The Digital Restaurant is James Buell, COO of World of Beer, Bar and Kitchen. And we're talking about alternative ways to acquire customers digitally. Are you ready? Let's go. Good afternoon, James. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Carl?
Very good. Meredith and I are very excited to talk to you. I really appreciate you sparing some of your time. I know you're a busy guy. Where in the world are you?
I am in Tampa, Florida. That's where our headquarters are at. It's where we started at in 2007.
Fantastic. Congratulations on, I think you had an opening yesterday. If I read your Instagram profile correctly.
We did. It's our newest company location up in Pasco County here, a suburb of Tampa. Had a strong opening, good friends and family over the weekend. I spent a lot of time there the past few days, really just sitting back in awe of our local operations team, our local leaders, trainers, everybody pitching in and having a great opening day.
Fantastic. James, you have had quite an interesting career, I think it's fair to say. Obviously, hard rock is in your background, but you've gone from the world of marketing into the COO space, which is not a profile I often see. So perhaps you could tell our audience a little bit about that journey that you've gone through to today.
I've been fortunate to have a lot of kind people in my life to help guide me along the way. Very non-traditional background, even as a marketer. You can probably see it in here. I've got a lot of UCF paraphernalia. I went to UCF proudly, got a management information systems degree, did some computer coding in the COBOL world for a few years and wasn't super happy with where I was going. That led me to go to law school at night. And I had a friend who was working at Hard Rock at their headquarters in Orlando, and they needed somebody to do copywriting and early day CRM. So I volunteered for that role, was able to come in contact with some really bright folks like Brian Seminis, Sean D., ultimately John Galloway, who, I think I describe all different shades of mentors who helped drill into me the finer points of marketing. It's an opportunity at Hard Rock that started off as candidly just a job and turned into a career. And then, as I tell a lot of folks that I have the pleasure of working with here, is you never know really if you're good at anything until you just do it on your own. When I left Hard Rock and came here, you got to pretend like you're good at things, right? Because everybody wants to know where the car is driving down the road. But until you get in the driver's seat, you don't really know. And so when I came here, it was interesting to be able to harken back on those nuggets of wisdom that were given to me that I probably didn't realize was wisdom along the way. Came here a little bit over 6 years ago, strictly with a focus on marketing, but it's a smaller outfit than Hard Rock. And being a smaller outfit, there's a lot of opportunity. We're 40 plus restaurants, but 40 plus restaurants, while decent in size, it's still a nimble team. And so having a nimble team provided a lot of areas of opportunity. I'm an individual who likes to raise my hand when I see opportunity. It doesn't necessarily mean if you put my CV up to somebody else's that they're probably not more qualified and better suited, but I'm going to come at things with the right attitude and hopefully with the mantra of knowledge of 10 is better than the wisdom of one. And so I lean upon a lot of smart gals and guys who I hope to one day. I don't think anyone in a leadership role is doing their job if they're not going to one day be obsolete. And I hope to one day be obsolete here. I hope that somebody's going to push me out of the way, and I hope I can see all the great things they're doing from afar. And I hope that I'm able to take some small amount of pride in helping set those folks up for the success that they're having.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think a leader's not a leader unless there's people behind them, right? So that's fantastic. I'm also super curious about this intersection of marketing and operations, because my supposition is, as an operator, you're going to care so much about the experience, because that's really where marketing comes to life in a restaurant. Mm-hmm. And that you're really going to be working a lot with the team on what does it take to have that experience be consistent.
Meredith, I think that's a much more eloquent way of saying that it's not the customer is always right, but the customer experience is always right. And so we do here at World of Beer, Bar Kitchen, we do put a lot of emphasis on the experience. A lot of what we do is experiential. The way we're situated, we have a very open floor plan. We invite folks in, leading with the beer. It's in our name. I think we have a best-in-class culinary program, and you got to deliver upon that. You got to deliver on the basics. My boss, our owner, was a long-standing executive at Outback. He's another mentor, and he's part of me and a lot of folks in our organization is, are we pleasing the customer? Is that what we're doing? And so that might mean carrying extra staff. We just went through it. A meeting before I came here was talking about our Odessa opening, and are we keeping our trainers on long enough to make sure that our new staff we've hired really have the basics down pat and are really delivering upon that world of beer experience? Or are we going to shortchange ourselves and ultimately pay the price in the long run? And we're not going to do that. And that's, again, a customer focus agenda. So on the operations side, for me, it's about simplifying who we are. You'll scroll our franchising opportunities here along the bottom in a little bit. Franchising us, it's not for the faint of heart. But what I would say is it's a lot more fun than running a dry cleaner or a Subway or something that is a little bit more, I think, monotonous in a not great way. I think running a world of beer is different day to day, week to week, and it's fun and it's a challenge and there's a lot of aspects to it. The customer is always going to expect certain things and you've got to deliver upon those basics. We utilize a platform called Sochi. We're deeply ingrained in that to track what's happening, what is the consumer sentiment, what are folks saying about it. We bonus our managing partners on what our customers are saying about us. So there's an opportunity there. We want to give them skin in the game to make sure they're being proactive in delivering a great experience, but that's not always going to happen. What is the guest recovery efforts? What are we doing to make sure that those folks are going to give us a second try or second bite at the apple?
James, I've got to ask you, do you have to be an expert in beer to be able to do your job? Because I've got a double nut brown here, I've got a Peroni, and I've got a Blue Moon. Is there one I should open or one that I wouldn't expect to have in a world of beer?
Again, it's the people behind you, right? There's a gentleman, Mark Sawyer, on the team who is our beer expert. When I am out with our beer vendors, I pick the most complicated sounding beer we have. We've got hundreds of beers at every location, bottles, cans, draft. So whatever's the most complicated sounding beer makes me seem that I probably have a deeper palate than I may. I won't say what my beer of choice is because I don't want to offend any of our partners. We got a lot of great partners in the industry. I think it is, quite honestly, we have a role within our locations that is a product manager or a product coordinator because 50% of our volume is not food. So you've got to have somebody who's dialed into that community and understands what are the styles that appeal to that community, what's going to bring folks back, what's the right price point. And that's a deeply important piece of who we are. Again, it's in our name. So we take our beer very seriously. Our training includes, I think, a very intensive, quote unquote, what we call beer school to make sure our folks are, as they're approaching at the table, they're approaching behind the bar. We've got folks in our four walls that care about beer, that keep beer top of mind, and that, again, are doing things the right way. And obviously always serving responsibly, trying to take you on that beer journey. Our app does the same, World of Beer. We're in the App Store, but again, we track beers. We have beer leaders for different consumption. You can consume by country, by style, etc. If you get your phone and you don't know what you want, you can shake your phone. It'll give you a recommendation based upon what you've been drinking in the past. So it's really core to what we're doing from a business perspective.
That is awesome. I love the segue into digital. Of course, we are here at the digital restaurant and we care very much about digital. And initially, when Carl told me that we were going to be talking to World of Beer Bar and Kitchen, I thought, well, that sounds like a very experiential place. That sounds like a place I would want to go and be and taste. And digital, I don't get the intersection, but you just told me that you had a really cool app that has a really neat feature on it. I'd love to hear how else digital plays a role in your business, percent of sales mix, percent of marketing mix, all things digital. Talk to me about how World of Beer is actually a digital business.
Yeah, Meredith, again, I came here 6 years ago. We already had a very robust loyalty program that we've got World of Beer Zealot. There's folks, I'll just call them by their first name, Dennis and Mary, who go location by location, week after week, trying new beers to stay atop our beer leaderboard. And it's not different than what I had in the past life at Hard Rock. At Hard Rock, we had pin collectors. We have folks that are beer consumers here that want to try all these different beers from all around the world. And that in itself kind of set the stage for a pretty set of circumstances to expound upon digitally. So when you think about lookalike consumers, et cetera, we have a very wide palette of folks that we can pull from and say, okay, how do we find more of these folks? And so coming here about 6 years ago, it took me a minute to understand who our consumers were, what the appeal to us was within all kind of aspects of the business, and how to best market to those folks. So initially what we did was we pivoted to a very roll up your sleeves, boots on the ground, grassroots approach of having events. And the events could be themed around beer, like a beer Olympics. It could be themed around trying to put our food first. There's a young lady who just walked by me here who's up from our South Florida region. She's our regional manager there, Holly Mauser, and she's a marketing genius. And she came up with a theme brunch. And she tried it in our Coconut Creek location. And like you, Carl, I was looking at our social and I was thinking, well, what the heck's going on down there that's working so well? So we've implemented that and put it system wide. And the theme brunch allows our staff to get engaged, dress up. So it could be a 90s theme brunch because although I graduated high school in the 90s, it's apparently in vogue like the 70s was when I was a kid. It gives our staff a reason to dress up, have some fun around it. We are doing things very grassroots from that standpoint, Meredith. And then candidly, it was what's the stickiness to the consumer? So what is the value of getting someone into our rewards program? Our rewards program, pretty simple. You get $5 on sign up. For every $75 you spend, you get another $5. There's a lot of surprise and delight things. There's a lot of nurturing campaigns that go on in the background, but that's at its core, that's what it is. I know those folks come in 23% more often than a typical customer. I know they spend 22% more than a typical customer. So the value to them is very high to me as a marketer. So how do we do these events and then put our loyalty program front and center and make it, again, a more aspirational program for them? So again, I'm going to rattle off names and hopefully they'll listen to the podcast. Young lady, Corey Rosecrans, young lady I used to work with, Emily Barth, Sydney Thompson, Mark Sawyer, they all put together what's called a brewery challenge program. And, what that is we work with our partners. So this past March just ended, we worked with Guinness and we had Harp. We asked you, our loyalty members, come in, drink these 3 beers. Somebody's going to win a trip to Ireland. Someone's going to get to go to Ireland on behalf of these sponsors. So again, that was adding that bit of experiential. So that as a marketer gave me a nugget to go out and market around.
It's almost like you're using the digital program to pull people into the experience and then using that experience as your kind of top of funnel to pull people into the digital and they become self-reinforcing. Is that a good way to describe it?
Gosh, you should be sitting here. I'm going to tell you a quick aside. Past life, I had to go to a conference in Beijing and they put these earpieces in and I have newfound respect after doing this was if you do the news or whatever, I guess people just talking to you and I take that for granted. So I'm there and everything is not in English. And so there's a translator speaking in English and it was a panel. So there's a panel speaking. You can tell, again, went to UCF, go Knights, charge on, love them, but I'm not the smartest guy you've ever met. So it took about 3 minutes into these different people talking in my ear, I was wildly confused of what was going on. So much like 25 seconds ago, I started telling a story within marketing, comparing marketing to a campfire, right? Because digital marketing to me it's just a campfire. It depends on who's your audience. And if you think about a campfire, somebody tells a great story and then you want to go tell that story the next time you're with your friends. So that's what marketing is at its core to me. And I butchered the hell out of the story. And the next thing, the whole forest was on fire. I had 75 different fires going and I didn't know where I was going, just like I was a second ago. I didn't know where I was going. But you just keep talking, but you don't know where you're going. And
James, it's one of Meredith's great talents. Try writing a
she
book with
knew.
it. I would write
knew.
1,000 words and should reduce it down to 60. It was like hours of work down to 60 words. It's a special talent.
What you said, I'm going to steal in our next board meeting. But no, seriously, that is, we take the experience and it is just that funnel because you want to create those surprise and delight moments. And it gives us things to market that are not World of Beer. I know our food's better than Buffalo Wild Wings. I know our food's better than Chili's. I also know that consumers have a harder time equating a great culinary experience with a concept named on the building World of Beer, Bar and Kitchen. So how do we create consumer touch points, both in real time and digitally, that drive people to go, oh man, that's way better than I thought. That's at the end of the day, that's all I want. I just want somebody to come in and go, oh, that was really good. My better half loves our brunch program. And every time she is blown away by our avocado toast, every time she goes, man, this is way better than First Watch. Now, that's not something you would typically think, and we're not trying to roll up our sleeves and compete with First Watch, but I want her reaction amongst her comp set of consumers. And then again, to go out and find more folks like her to bring in. And
in your loyalty program, do you also do personalized recommendations for people based on what beers they've liked in the past?
We do.
Do you do that all manually with your beer experts?
We don't. So there is some manual process that goes in, but there is something that I think we coined this phrase, and I don't know why. I don't know what we're going to do with it, but it's the algorithm. It's essentially the Netflixification of your experience. So when you're coming in and dining with us, if you have a certain beer and pairing of food that you find, what I like about the program is we're able to shoot off a recommendation to you. Like when a new beer taps that fits your profile, we can send off that recommendation. Hey, come in and try this without discounting you. I don't want us to get to be a discount brand. I don't want to give you the 3 for $10.99. All deference to our competition that does that, because I think that's a cycle that you get stuck in and it's tough to get out of. So for us, it's more about trying to understand and personalize things as for you as a consumer.
I love that. The algorithm, for
Yep.
those nerds among us, that's like the best name ever.
It's a
It
hashtag
wasn't
we
me. I
have to
can't take
use.
credit.
Hey, James, one of the themes that we wanted to cover in today's conversation with you was something particularly unique, I think, in the sense that we were always talking to restaurant owner, operators, executives about how the marketplaces, the DoorDash, the Uber Eats of this world are the primary mechanism, it seems, for restaurants these days to acquire customers through digital channels. Of course, there's Google My Business and things like that. But we were introduced by a mutual friend of ours, Preston Younger, and I'm interested a little bit about trying to understand how you got aware of the company that Preston's at now called Nift, and how that is helping you acquire customers in a different way to the mainstream approach, I think it's fair to say, of acquiring customers digitally.
Well, just to cut to the quick on what Nift affords us is it gets folks inside our four walls. So again, I think I'd rival our experience with anyone within our competitive set. I got to get you inside the four walls. So while the third party marketplace serves a purpose for us, I've got friends at DoorDash and Uber, and they're great partners of ours. It's a different experience, candidly, trying our giant pretzel at home versus inside our four walls. Selfishly, our most profitable experience is responsibly vending you another beer, right? It's just an understanding what's going on, curating, creating that memorable moment. The moment isn't as memorable when you take us home. That's just reality. And so working with Nift allows us to, number one, they've given us the opportunity to entertain a valued franchise partner of ours in Owings Mills, Maryland, a gentleman named Beek. He's opening another one coming up in Annapolis, and getting him on board to understand, try this, and then again, just be the voice of, wow, this is really working. This is helping our business. It's bringing in new customers. The way it's bringing in new customers is we're able to geo-target those folks that the target demo and within a radius that makes sense for our business. I get them to come in. I get them to try us. What makes sense? What doesn't make sense? How do I know what's real? What isn't real? For me, the way I'm evaluating Nift is our average check is higher. Our average check with Nift is higher than it is if I don't use Nift. Now, those folks are incentivized, right? We're giving them money. We're giving them a one-time use amount of money loaded up to come in and try Wild Bar and Kitchen. But they're spending more than a guest who comes in and doesn't spend with us. And if we do what you touched on earlier, if we deliver upon the basics, if we give them that great experience, if I can get them to sign up into the loyalty program, that's amazing. And if I can't get them to sign up in the loyalty program, I've still got that customer information. I can still reach out to them. I can still market to them, send them different opportunities to come in again. And there are some folks that opt in for the Nift pilot program and say, hey, I want to go to Wild Bar and Kitchen. And then it expires before they get to come in. I still have the opportunity to go back to those folks and say, hey, sorry you missed us. We'd still love for you to come in and try us. Here's an offer to try. Again, getting those folks in, understanding what that customer acquisition cost to us is in real time, and what that customer acquisition cost is to us across Google My Business. We're playing in the Meta and Google PMax space because you have to. It's blocking and tackling at this point for a restaurant business. I know what we're spending there, and I know what we're spending by different DMA, and I know what Nift is costing us. And again, I think Nift is bringing us consumers. I know it's bringing us consumers because we can compare it against our existing loyalty program. It's new consumers. It's folks who haven't been advocates of World of Beer in the past, or maybe they have been in the past and they haven't tried who we are today.
So it's not cannibalizing current customers. Let's
Not.
just, for those folks that have not perhaps understood the journey, because it is a slightly different approach. As I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I was on a TripAdvisor, for example, and I had just left a review, is that where Nift gets involved? It feels like at that point, it seems it appears, and it's offering a potential guest the opportunity to take advantage of some form of cash voucher to use at World of Beer. And what happens at that point, James? At the point of where the customer says, oh, great, there's a $10 voucher to use at World of Beer. What happens then? Do you get the customer information straight away? How does the customer get to utilize it?
Carl, first, I find it interesting you chose TripAdvisor and not Tinder. That was a nice sidestep for you. They also partner with Tinder. No, so we're able to provide them guardrails of who our customers are. They do utilize these partners like TripAdvisor, like Tinder, and they'll offer up something that says, hey, here's $10. Here's potentially, we've gone as rich as $20 to try. And that customer of theirs will opt in. They'll say, I choose the World of Beer opportunity. And then they're given the opportunity. The opportunity has a specific time window. Again, the Nift folks have been, kind enough for us to work on tighter time windows, trying to get folks to make an immediate purchase, longer time windows. And we think we found a nice sweet spot. But then they come in, they dine as normal. And then at the end of their experience, they will go ahead and show you the voucher they have on their phone. We type it into our POS, and that it comps that amount off of their meal.
And is that the point when you get charged, or are you paying like a monthly rate regardless of whether customers are choosing to take advantage of that voucher?
Once folks opt in to choose this, there is a charge with that. And again, there's also the discount. That's of our choosing, whatever the discount amount we want to be. But there is an eyeballs type charge, if you will. So if the two of you decide, I want to pick World of Beer, and you both pick, but only one of you uses it, we're still paying, a charge for both of you choosing us.
Hi, Carl here. Just to interrupt the show briefly to remind you that if you have yet to get your copy of either of the Delivering the Digital Restaurant books, now is the time to get one. If you head to thedigital.restaurant, you're going to be able to get the best price available. You can also listen to both books with yours truly talking about them on Audible. You can get a copy off Amazon if you'd prefer to order through them. But if you haven't got the books yet, get them. They really are going to transform the way in which you look at the restaurant industry and the way in which technology is disrupting it.
I feel like the restaurant industry has been talking so much about loyalty and remarketing and bringing people back, and hugely important. I think it's way easier to bring someone back than to find someone new. Generally, this sounds like a program that's totally different in that it helps restaurants find someone specifically who is totally new, who then later you get the opportunity to wow them when they come in and then to remarket to them and all those things. But as you said, to get them into the four walls and have that great experience.
Yeah, there's folks out there, and I'm not knocking them. And in certain markets, we do it, who are still doing the tree chop campaign. Top of your building, 5 miles out radius, let's send out direct mail, and let's put 1, 2, 3 offers, and let's see what happens. And that's like how I view an opportunity like that is, let's see what happens, right? It could be good, could be bad, could be somewhere in between, but the cost outlay, it's out there, right? So if it costs you $6,500 to send out X number of direct mail pieces, that's a sunk cost, that's done. Then you have the redemption cost, right? So what are the offers you're giving? What is that off of your food costs? How's it hitting your comps and promo line, et cetera? That's an additional cost, and that's the unknown, right? That's the unknown cost. And then you're hoping that those folks come in, and if, let's say, you give them a $10 off 20 voucher, you're hoping that if you want the ticket to be $42 and they're giving you 32 hard cash, you don't know. As folks got away from more traditional avenues like that into the digital world, there always seems to be the next thing that says, oh, we're going to get you this return on your spend. What I would say with Nift is, again, I can track it in real time. I've got weekly reporting by location that's doing this. It says, here's how many folks picked you. Out of those folks, here's who came in. I can validate it against our POS. And then I know how much they're spending. I know when those folks opt in, how much they're spending, what it looks like in their basket size. I can run and validate those users against our loyalty members and then see who opted in. Because again, if we're doing our job right, when these Nift users come in, they're not part of the Nift pool anymore. Now Nift's going out and finding new she's and he's to come in and enjoy World of Beer. And we can get them into our funnel that you so eloquently touched on before, Meredith, where I'm doing the digital experience and just, cycling those folks through it. And they're becoming our real life UGCs, if you will.
Can we go back to this whole TripAdvisor thing? Because
Yes.
I think for people who don't know what this is, they're like, how did TripAdvisor get involved? I'm confused. I know I felt that way when we first started talking about it. And I think it's fair to describe Nift almost as like a marketplace where they are bringing value to someone like Advisor or an e-commerce brand or lots of different folks out there, primarily internet-oriented companies that for whatever reason want to give a gift to their users, right? Whether it's in the case of TripAdvisor for leaving a review, maybe it's for being a super loyal customer, whatever their motivation is, they want to give a gift. And in order to do that, Nift provides them with lots of different choices of different types of gifts that they can give. And you, as World of Beer, have opted into becoming one of those gifts. And so in that way, it's almost like World of Beer is getting access to the TripAdvisor consumer, but only those TripAdvisor consumers who say, oh, of this list of gifts, I'm really interested in the World of Beer. And so in a way, they're opting in and signaling to you, I am an interested type of consumer where your brand makes sense to me. I'm going to tell you that by choosing your brand. Is that a fair description?
Honestly, you hit the nail on the head.
Here's
It does.
what it is. I like to
Yes.
turn everything into math because I'm a finance person. And so what I'm trying to
Ah.
figure out is who pays for what in this whole chain. So the consumer never really pays anything aside from when they redeem. If they redeem for more than the value of the vouchers,
Correct.
you're going to end up paying a whole bunch. And you're paying as World of Beer, as the gift that's being given, whatever discount that you choose to offer, and maybe a small fee to access that consumer. And then is TripAdvisor paying? So that's what I'm trying to do here. I'm just trying to turn this all into math.
I can't speak for the TripAdvisor side of the business equation. I'm sure there's a Nift person who can clue us into that side, but I don't know if that's just something that they're utilizing the sheer size of their database, or if it is something that TripAdvisor is paying a fee to have as a surprise and delight.
The thing that's really interesting to me is that it seems a win-win-win, James, across the board, right? Because as far as I'm concerned, this seems to be like a very easy way for you to have a measurable approach to be able to bring customers that aren't currently with you. When someone's getting something from DoorDash today, they're paying the 20-25% fee every time, regardless of whether they've come to you before or not. This time, because of that ability to extract current customers out of that, it's making sure you're targeting customers that have otherwise perhaps not visited World of Beer before. But there must be a catch here. How easy is it for you to be able to get your restaurant working with Nift? One of the big challenges we run up against when we speak to technology companies is APIs, integrations, and all that kind of thing. How fast was it?
It's really fast, honestly. There's an onboarding process that it's really not much heavy lifting. It's getting the POS key in and then more or less putting together a one-sheeter to make sure your staff understands when this guest comes in, when these customers come in, this is the process. For us, it's getting a manager's key, manager swipe to come in to make sure they understand. A manager is taking care of the transaction. Manager is doing the table visit. Manager is doing that, again, pleasing every customer type approach that we have. There's not a ton that we need to do in terms of APIs or anything.
Wow.
It's as simple as showing a phone, us typing in the POS. The customer data is shared with us. We're able to try to get them into an onboarding process within our loyalty. We're able to speak to them outside of that, even if they opt not to be part of the loyalty program.
So talk a little bit about that. Once you have the data, what do you do with it? I think restaurants so often are told, oh, the data is so important. Don't let your data go to the third parties. You need to have the data. But once you get the data, what do you do with it? What do you do with the Nift data once you receive it?
So again, going back to our loyalty program, for us, a large part of what we do is funneled through our WOB Rewards loyalty. So we try to get them to be a rewards member. That's step one. So there is an onboarding, if you will, nurturing campaign to do that. If it's folks like in the one scenario I mentioned who chose us but didn't utilize us within the window, there's a separate kind of nurturing campaign to incentivize those folks to come in and maybe get a second bite at the apple to try WOB Bar and Kitchen. We haven't candidly gotten to that lookalike type scenario yet. I think we're doing a lot of that within our own loyalty subset of users. So, but ultimately, as we get more of these folks to transition over to our loyalty program, we're able to add them to that lookalike type approach.
Got it. Let's go back for a moment and talk about the means of measurement on this, James, because there are so many different things you could be doing to propel the brand, to try and acquire additional customers. Is it the simplicity of how you're measuring Nift that's really something that stands out for you? And just take us through that approach.
Well, again, we're not reservation based, right? A lot of folks, I have friends that are Melting Pot, right? And so Melting Pot, it's a special occasion type restaurant, and they want to drive clicks to make a reservation. And that makes them feel good, right? They know the spend they put digitally, if they got a reservation out of it, they quantify that for a certain value and it works. We're not built like that as a concept. For us, it's more about how are we comping, right, from a traffic standpoint? How are we comping from a sales standpoint? But most importantly to me, how are we comping from an average check standpoint? Because anytime you add a discount into the equation, you don't have to be a UCF graduate to think that adding a negative, you're going to bring home a smaller average check, which again is going to hurt your total sales, et cetera. So Having it hit or exceed our normal average check wasn't something I expected. We're comping higher than our normal average check, which is, it's a nice surprise. So that is one major metric for me that I constantly monitor. Brian Saminas and Preston with Nift will constantly bring that top of mind to make sure I understand. That's important. The second is, if you go back to that direct mail ideas, that's 6,500. You write that check, you send it, and you say your Hail Marys and your rosaries, and you hope that it works. This, you can do it in a much more palatable pace, right? What's the quickest way to eat an elephant? One piece at a time. You can go market by market. You can onboard franchisees. We have a newer market in Nashville that our brand awareness candidly isn't as high as it is here in Tampa. Our goal there wasn't necessarily to try to get folks to come in against the competitors, just trying to get folks to understand who we are. Wow, we're putting World of Beer Bar and Kitchen in front of you. Wouldn't have thought that the place has World of Beer on the side of the building, has this amazing Cobb salad that's stacked, or has these Cali bowls that are healthy and look quite delightful from a picture and visual. So again, that to me it's a smarter way to spend from an ad perspective money versus, again, even within a Google PMax campaign, I can see the traffic. Again, I'm not trying to downplay my wits. If my mom ever watches this, she's going to be like, he had a very high IQ, mama. But I'm smart enough to know numbers and figures and graphs and whatnot. But again, end of the day, I just strip it back and look at traffic. Is it impacting the traffic? Is it impacting our sales? So if that's not happening and you've got these hockey stick moves on Google, something is wrong, right? And in my estimation, either the people came in and were just not treated with the experience that I'm hoping that we're delivering from an operational standpoint, or numbers are a little off, and I've got to understand why.
Yeah, Meredith, you always say the phrase about marketing's role is to bring the customers in and ops is to keep them coming back. And it seems to resonate there. You can have as good a marketing campaign as you'd like, but you still want to create that great experience. I guess the whole piece around measurement, James, is especially important given the fact you're a franchise organization. So you don't just have to convince you and your peers about the efficacy of these approaches, but also your franchisees. So I'm curious, how have the franchisees reacted to things like Nift?
So we have one franchise partner in right now. It's our Owings Mills, Maryland location. A really bright young man, Charles Joins, who is our general manager there. Again, our franchisee at Beak. I hope he likes it. He's opening another location early next year in Annapolis. But for me, I'm a proof is in the pudding kind of guy. I like to show people something that it works before saying, hey, this is part of your new platform. So that happens one of two ways. It's either World of Beer as a franchise spending money on their behalf to try something, or World of Beer helps opt them in early stages and says, hey, you get to be part of the growth of this. You get to help us shape this. You get to tell us, are the offers too rich, not rich enough, timelines too tight, not tight enough. Early on in my time here, the first conference we had, I took our marketing royalties and I said, everybody gets their money back. So for 3 months, everybody's going to get their money back that you paid in, and we're all going to spend it in your market. And the reason I did that was I wanted to understand who was a willing marketer within each of these locations and what everyone's equation to reach success was. We're not going to be broadcasting during March Madness. We're not going to have 75 commercials during the LSU Iowa Women's Elite Eight game. That's not who we are. But we are going to do things that are going to differentiate our brand and our experience. And I needed to understand who felt they were getting the bang for their buck and who just needed further education as to why we were doing things we were doing. So doing that early on in my time here, I think helped lay a foundation for understanding who these folks are who want to play ball, and understanding who these folks are who might just need a one-to-one conversation about why we're doing things the way we're doing them. My 6 years here, I've had nothing but great experiences with our franchise community. We've got a lot of great businessmen and women out there who just all have the same goal. And the goal is they want to be profitable. They want to have fun. They want to feel like rewarded at the end of the day. And they want folks and partners who are going to help them on that path. So I see myself as a steward to those franchisees out there and helping them create that business for themselves. And I see folks like Nift as a partner on the way. A gentleman that Brian and I both worked with at Hard Rock, John Galloway, very early on, a mentor of mine, instilled in me that vendors, it's all partners. Everybody's a partner, right? If you've got partners in your business, you've got people that want to help grow your business because they're going to stay around. You're going to value them more than somebody who's making a transactional experience. And it's going to be something that when times are good, you're celebrating with them. When times are bad, they're rallying around you and helping understand how they can make times good again. Meredith, sum that up. I was like 45 minutes of me talking, like right there.
Good luck to me, sir. We talked a little bit about how folks get in touch with World of Beer if they're interested in franchising. It's been going along that ticker on the bottom, but I think it'd be good for you to say it out loud.
Yeah. So if folks can go to WOB franchising.com, that's how you can express your interest to be a franchisee. Some point early on in the process, you'll get to speak to me. So I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I'll let you be the judge. And if you just want to go from a consumer standpoint and see where the nearest location would be, it is worldofbeer.com. That's just our footprint. You can see what we have from an offering standpoint, where we're situated, all that good stuff. I think there's a picture of me on there too.
Sounds amazing. I hope that Carl and I get to try it soon. I also want to talk about how to get in touch with Nift because we've been talking about them quite a bit here. And first, I want to tell a story that I heard from them because I think in the restaurant industry, there's so many startups and restaurants sometimes have the question of, do I actually need this thing the startup is trying to convince me of? And secondly, are they going to be around next year? What I learned about Nift today was not only are they going to be around next year, they've been around for 9 years and they started in restaurants. And the reason restaurants haven't really heard of them is because during the pandemic, they ended up working not in the local economy as they originally thought they would, but much broader with much bigger companies. And it's only recently that they've come back to restaurants. You are, James, an early customer with them in the restaurant industry. And I just thought that was really cool that they're coming full circle to their roots here. As a result, we've got Nift also wants to say thank you for listening. Because of that, they're offering 2 months free on the platform to any restaurant who's interested in talking with them. And you can get in touch with them by visiting gonift.com/restaurant.
Well, James, I have to say, I think it's fantastic to be able to have some time talking with you today. Really appreciate you sharing your story. It sounds like it's a fantastic concept. We'll have to come and visit you over in Florida and have maybe not a Blue Moon or a Prony, but whatever your favorite beer of choice is. I'm sure that you'll share it with me privately when we're not recording. But
well, my favorite beer is our proprietary beer, Secret Llama. I should have said that.
Very good. I have one last question for you, though, and that is, how do you get to the top of the leaderboard?
You drink responsibly a lot. So it's based on style and type. You've got to try a lot of beers from a lot of places that you can't pronounce to get to the top of the leaderboard. But Dennis and Mary are probably always going to be one step ahead. So I don't know if you're going to top them.
Fantastic. Well, I'm sure those out there that haven't heard of you will hopefully give you a visit sometime soon. Really appreciate you sharing your time with us today. Thank you for sharing us your experience of using Nift. Sounds like it has a very appropriate name. Sounds very nifty. Is that a word that an Englishman comes up with or an American? But it sounds very nifty if you ask me. But thank you for that, James. Looking forward to keeping in touch. And for those folks that want to get in touch with you, what's the best way of reaching out to you?
Feel free to email me. It's just my name. You see there on the screen, james.buell@wobfranchising.com. Love to hear from you. If you've got any questions, if you just want to comment on, brow lines, or whatever strikes your fancy, I'd love to hear from you. If you have questions about being a franchisee, a gentleman who shares the wall with me is our Chief Development Officer, Ben Novello. Happy to put you in touch with him and get that process started.
Great stuff. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
The Digital Restaurant Podcast is available for you to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. Watch us, rate us, and subscribe to The Digital Restaurant on YouTube, and follow along on all our social media digital restaurant channels. Thanks for listening.